Hey, Greg, how you doing today?
Hey, real good.
Fantastic. Well, I guess we're going to do things a little different today and just have a one-on-one and discuss some things we wanted to talk about and put it out there to the world and see maybe it resonates with somebody. Maybe it means something, does something, or you just feel like I'm not alone in it. So, pleasure to have you working alongside.
Same with you.
Fantastic. So we discussed some topics that we would touch on. I was a poor host and didn't have much to bring to the table, but you had a few topics. Um, which one did you want to talk about first, or did you have a preference, or you want me to pick?
I'm gonna let you pick.
Okay, let's see. I jotted them down here on the screen. I can pick a number. How about that? No, I can be more decisive than that. Um, I liked the one I didn't like. I wanted to discuss the topic that you had where you are at an exchange or at some sort of event and you're going through alienation and the child has been positioned against you and doesn't feel comfortable being in that position, so they would rather not be around you. So they choose to avoid you, whether that's affection or being physically around you. And so maybe they might say, well, I don't want to go with dad. And most of that's probably because they don't want to deal with the repercussions of being the person in the middle. They're just a child. But anyways, I hopefully summarize that decently.
Yeah, and this can be situations, of course, where we're talking parental alienation, where the child is being brainwashed by, we'll just, since this is a father's page, we'll say in this case the mother, to dislike their father and take on the same emotions that the mother has about the father. And it can be real difficult. I see it commonly happen at all ages, but it seems to be a really difficult time when the kids are between 10 and 15, 16 is where I see a lot of dads really seeing that it's taking place. But it's difficult for the dad. You're there to pick up your child, whether it be at school or mom's house or anywhere for that matter, and your child doesn't want to come out, doesn't want to see you. Um, and it's a real difficult situation. And there's no easy answer, but I think the first thing that we as men do and dads do is we get upset. We might get angry and upset. We shouldn't get upset at the child because they're being coerced into acting this way. But as far as, what should we do? First thing we don't want to do is cause a scene, get angry. You have to believe people are always watching you, and with cameras, you can be, of course, being filmed, and anything you say, even if you do the right thing, is going to be used against you in family court. Seems like we can do the right thing all the time, and in the eyes of the court, it's the wrong thing anyway. But unfortunately, we're there to exercise our parenting time, and we're denied, whether it's from the child or it's actually from mother through the child that we're being denied. So the best thing to do is just, unfortunately, log it down, record that you showed up this date and time to exercise your parenting time, and you were denied, and write down the details and in great detail what happened. If there's a witness, log that down too, and then discuss it with your attorney on where to go from there, especially if it's a reoccurring event. Um, and if it's at the early stages of alienation, it's time to get some experts involved. I'm not a real fan of social workers. Haven't had a lot of luck with social workers, but you need to find one that's believes in parental alienation and get the child in some counseling if that's even possible. And you may have to get the court involved too, and hopefully the judge believes in parental alienation. Um, I mean, I can go on and ramble some more, but that initial shock of you're there to pick up your child, and they don't want to come see you, and they may even say some bad things that really are hurtful. At that moment, you just need to kind of suck it up and leave and document, consult with your attorney on where to go from there.
Yeah, and what's what's crazy to think about is what you just said as far as like the judge, hopefully they're aware of this sort of thing, or the attorneys or whoever. I imagine in some of these settings for many dads, they're, in public. And like you said before, people have phones, they have video everywhere. And, if we have to worry about judges not being aware of this, then how much more of just the everyday person? And all they see is this snippet of this kid is just absolutely terrified of their parent. And, that for anyone seeing a child act that way, it instigates that nurturing protector in most all people. And so I'm sure people want to whip their phones out, and the kid might be flailing, screaming. It's not a good look. And so
Yeah.
when you're out in society, they just automatically will assume that you must be a bad parent. They have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. All they get is this preview, and it's easy to judge a book by its cover. Um, I I would say, you know, you told me about one of your personal experiences, and obviously you had to leave. I'll preface what I'm about to say and say that we're not attorneys. We're not giving legal advice. Personally, I'm just going to say what I think in this scenario. Um, you should be trying your best to exercise your right as a parent, not ignoring the child, their feelings, thoughts, emotions, et cetera, so forth, but you're the parent and you should take charge of this moment. Um, because it can be used against you if you just retreat with a little resistance. And Craig had a scenario that he told me about, and it was absolutely the right decision to
Well, and I'll share that
done.
too
Yeah,
in
go
case
ahead.
I hear too. But before I do that, I mentioned about documenting the situation. The court may not do anything if it's the first time, second, or even the third or fourth or fifth time, but it's cumulative and it's going to probably get worse. So you want to in great detail who, what, where, when, and why, witnesses, write it down in great detail. If you took video, save those videos, uh, because it may take a number of times, a dozen times, of taking this to the court or lumping it all together and going to the court to where they will finally act. But back to the one situation we discussed before we went live here. I had a situation where it was in grade school. I went on my parenting time to pick up my daughter after school. And this is something I suggest to all fathers too. And I had done this. Make sure the school has your parenting time schedule, a copy of your court order, all your contact information, being involved dad at school and in all the activities that you can. Let the school and the principal know that you want to be an involved parent and you want copied on the school calendar, events, activities, any concerns they have with your child and grades, and show up for school lunch when you can. I did all those things. So the schools, uh, she was moved to a different school, so that school wasn't as aware of my involvement as the prior school. But I go to the school to pick up my daughter, and she was, I think, 10, 11, 12 at that time, and my parenting time, and they come out, and she wasn't there. And so I asked, well, will you go see where she's at? And they come out and say, well, your daughter doesn't want to go with you. And I said, well, what do you mean she doesn't want to go with me? It's kind of the earlier stages of alienation going on. They said, well, she doesn't want to go with you. I said, well, I'm thinking, well, she has to go with me. I'm her dad. And it's, my court ordered time to see her, and you have a copy of that. And they go back, and I think they talked to the principal and came back out. And I need to preface that this whole time I was calm, cool, polite, professional, collected. And I'm also a deputy sheriff at the time. And they flat out say, well, your daughter doesn't want to come out and see you. She doesn't want to go with you, and we're not going to force her to. And I came back with the same thing I'd already said. And they come back and they bring the school resource officer out. And for those that don't know, Here they use actual police officers that are scheduled in uniform at the school, and they. So anyway, he comes out and he says, "Look, your daughter doesn't want to see you, and despite the documents we have here, I'm going to ask you to leave, and if you don't leave, we're going to have you arrested for trespassing." So here it's my court ordered time to see my daughter. They have a copy of the court order, the parenting time schedule. She, through parental alienation, doesn't want to see me, which is the mother corrupting her mind to say those things. Yet I'm being denied my ability to parent my child. And at the time, I either had 40 or 50% parenting time assigned. And I just had to turn around and leave. And it just,
About how old was your daughter at the time?
I think it was 10 or 11. And she was
So,
fully alienated at age 13 is when the kids finally said, "We're done. We don't want to ever see dad again." But as we discussed earlier too, my sister-in-law works for the same school district, and I told her what happened, and I said, "Is this typical? What's going on here?" I didn't understand. And she's told me that the schools would rather err on the side of safety for the child and violate the law, violate a court order, and that was their rationalization for handling the situation the way they did. So that was kind of one extreme thing that happened in my life with the court systems.
yeah. Well, and like I said, I think in that scenario, you did the right move. I mean, what choice did you have? Go to jail?
Yeah, well, it was kind of shocking because my ex-wife had gotten involved and moved in with a guy almost an hour away. So besides that, I had driven 45 minutes one way just to pick up my daughter. And at the prior school, I don't think I would have had these problems because the teachers all knew me, the principal and I had a really good rapport. And even though there was multiple times where my ex was trying to interfere with my ability to parent at the school, they saw through what was going on at the old school, and this school, they didn't know me very well. But I could, if I reacted the other way, more emotionally, gotten loud and angry and mad, and well, it's my daughter, you got to bring her out, and I'm going to have you arrested, or all this kind of crap, I probably would have left in handcuffs. So yeah, I think I handled it the right way. But sure, I left, upset and angry, and what I say in my truck while I leave is different than taking it out on the school authorities.
Yeah, that's a whole separate lesson right there. Learn what to say and when to say it, and sometimes you're the only one that needs to hear what you have to say, and whatever it is that you're saying is probably completely justified, at least in sentiment. Um, but
Well, and we've all seen in the media and situations where maybe an exchange of parenting time, whether it's at a school or not. Some of these situations turn really heated, and they show up on YouTube, and some get violent. And there's been some dads that have even been shot and killed at exchange times with their kids. So,
yes,
best thing to do, keep things calm and leave and deal with it legally later.
1000%. That's a great segue into two different topics. One is just a small one that I'll hit on really quick. When I was volunteering for another organization, a much bigger organization, um, I was helping out with the some of the West Coast pages. Oregon was one of them, and there was a father that was at an exchange, and whatever was going on, it was high conflict, and I believe his child was a toddler at the time, 1 to 2 years old, and whatever happened, whatever was said, and he thought that it would be a good idea to end himself in front of his ex. And unfortunately, he didn't succeed immediately, and it took about a month or so. And I personally was working with the family and all of that, and just what a wake of devastation, and some not even realized, just because that child is still a child today. And the reason I tell that story is you're going through a difficult time. Whoever you are out there, if you're listening to this video, you're going through a difficult time. And the exchange is probably the most delicate time in your conflict. It is the most crucial time in your conflict. Things can be said, things can be done. You might want the last word. She or he might say that thing. These people were with you. They know who you are. They know how you operate. They most certainly know how to push your buttons. This is the time that you should be on guard, the most on guard. And if they say something, if you feel like a quick trigger, just remember this, and say, oh, I know what's going on here, because it's all a trap. It's all a trap. Whether they mean to be a trap or not, it is for you. And so don't fall into that, because there's a lot of hurt that can follow, even in saying something that is unkind, um, and it's in front of the child. Is it illegal to say it? No, but it sure does look bad if they use it in
Yep.
whatever they bring in court, or somebody records it. That, believe me, family court is the wild west of law, and they will use anything that can portray your character as someone that the child doesn't need to be around. And so don't let that exchange be an opportunity to end your exchanges. So that's I just wanted to put that out there.
Well,
But
and I would add, and this doesn't hold true because the roles are reversed with mother and father in these situations too. But it seems like far too often in family court, the mother can say and do things and act irrational, and you can have the evidence to prove it, and the court overlooks it. Where if it's dad doing similar, it seems like they come down on us with a ton of bricks. And like I said, that's not always the case, and roles are reversed, but it just seems like far too often that's the way it pans out.
yeah, I agree. And I think that, for me personally, is what makes me even more angry. And so it's easier to upset me, because I'm so frustrated about the injustice. Um, oh, I had a point. Um, it I think it's wise to be able to recognize when you're being emotional about something, and just pause. If you want to go get in your truck, like Craig said, and cuss out everybody, you want to go home, punch a hole in the wall, do whatever you got to do. Whenever you get that emotional trigger, you got to stop. You got to stop. Boy, I really wish I remembered that point I had.
When
Um,
I got upset, I'd go home and get on my motorcycle, go out on some country road and get it out over 100 miles an hour, clear my head, have a good ride, and come home. Because it didn't do any good to get angry. Um, the whole system, if anything, for me was just a pile of frustration on top of frustration. So I just had to find a way to deal with that anger and frustration. So for me, it was speed, the two-wheel kind.
yeah, same for me. Sometimes it probably wasn't the wisest thing, but I'm still here, so I made it.
Yeah, and I never crashed either.
Yeah, I think sometimes I wanted to, and I wish that I had been less reckless. I wish that I had heeded the advice that I'm giving now. I wish that someone had said that to me. It's the purpose of having these conversations. Hopefully, somebody does hear it before they do something stupid like that. Because it's not always about hurting yourself or hurting someone else. It's just about you make dumb choices. You
Yeah,
make dumb choices when you get emotional, and those dumb choices could be worse than the other things. So
yeah.
we,
Well, learn from our mistakes, and you know, we were there too. And when you're going through it, you you don't have the experience and time to look back on it like we are now.
another thing that we were talking about that is an easy frustration was you were talking about a father had come to you and was talking to you about an exchange day or exchange days. And if I recall correctly, you were saying that the ex had been bringing their new boyfriend, and the person like interpreted that as like taunting maybe, or just it was frustrating, and the father felt that it was inappropriate. What was that story?
Um, it just happened recently, and it was a little bit um trivial, but first it got under the father's skin. But if I remember right, he was bringing the child back from his parenting time, and mom wasn't there, and the boyfriend was, and he was actually a little early. And this, you could tell from the comments made by the boyfriend that the boyfriend was just acting like he was in charge, and he was taunting the real dad with his words, and it was getting under the skin of the dad. And he didn't like it that the boyfriend was there and the mother wasn't. And he he was looking at it as custodial interference. And I said, well, first of all, the boyfriend's not denying you any custodial time or parenting time. You're bringing the child back. So he had his terminology wrong, and maybe he was just angry about it. But in most cases, unless it's denied in the court order, um, if you go to pick up the child, actually, when the kids are in your care or in the care of the mother, they can leave that child in the care of anybody else that they so choose. There was a number of times, because of my work schedule, I may have had to go to work an hour too early, but my girlfriend, fiance, later wife would have the kids and would have to take them back to the mom. Or, you know, if I wanted to pick up the kids and they were at the mother's, their grandparents, my ex-wife's mother, um, then I would pick them up there. So when I have the kids on my parenting time, if I so choose to legally leave them with someone else that they can legally be with, that's my choice, and the mother can do the same. But in this case, the dad was upset that he brought the kids back to the boyfriend at mom's house and mother wasn't there. But you know, that may upset us, but it's, in most cases, it's legal, unless it, and I'm not a lawyer, but it's legal and recognized by the courts that that's, you know, that's your parenting time, and that includes your family, your new spouse, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's explicitly stated in your
Yeah,
order,
exactly.
yeah, it's completely fine. And I had brought this up before we went on here, but that's one of those things where, is it legal? Absolutely. Is it ethical? Depends on the situation, but sometimes those things that really get us riled up, we use as if it's going to be our, aha, or it's going to be some sort of like, you know, turning point in our custody or divorce case. It's not. Now, if you're in the middle or beginning of that, sure, you can get that drafted into your order if it will be enforced. That's a whole separate topic, probably for another day. Um, but it is worth considering, right of first refusal. I've had a lot of people argue with me on that. I think the more that you can put in your order that's not necessarily tedious, but just to focus on, listen, I want to spend time with my kid, that's a win. If it looks like you're trying to nitpick every single little thing, they can't go there, they can't go there, they can't go there, they can't see him, we can't be dropped off here, there. The judge is going to think you are very difficult, and they will not be inclined to side with you. Um, Interesting. When you were telling me that, I was reminded of when I went through my one of my mediations that I wasted a lot of money and time on.
Mhm.
Is during that during that time, I was pushing for a more equitable 50-50-ish schedule. And ironically, the mediator who was well lauded by the court, um, she stated that due to my work schedule, my request was unfeasible. And going back to what you said, it's your parenting time. You can leave the child with so and so or whatever, and um, it's ironic, really, because it was used against me. However, the mother, who was trying to work some side jobs and all of that, which I had no qualm with. She was getting roommates, uh, whom I also had no qualms with.
Mhm.
I did respect her judgment on that. Um, Nonetheless, it's like, okay, but you're saying I can't do this, but she can, and you're
Mhm.
using it as a means of keeping me from my kids. Because, like, okay, sure, my schedule, like, maybe I can't see them the full 24 hours that day, but it's like you go to work and you come home, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you had your kids with you every single day, you'd still come home and see them. But I don't know. When you were telling me that, I was reminded that that same thing was used against me, not necessarily against the other person. Um,
Well,
I don't
and
know.
it's funny, these work scheduling issues, they weren't an issue when you were married, but it's an issue later. And to spin off on your thing about having details in a court order, yeah, that is a big problem I see in a lot of court orders. I'm gonna kind of just spin off real quick and we can talk this in more detail down the road. But that's a lot of these orders are not detailed enough, and they should have more detail in them as far as like with exchanges, where and who provides the transportation, and what should be done if you can't, and right of first refusal, those kind of things. But they're just not detailed enough. And things may change too. You may have a relationship with your ex that is pretty good at the time, but it falls apart down the road. But I almost think if you're in a high conflict situation where you almost do these exchanges at a police department, a lot of them now have a specific place in their parking lot that's on video, and where it's just a more of a safe space to have these exchanges occur.
Yeah, I really can't remember. I want to say that was a topic. I don't know. It's been over 6 years. Um, it's easy to think that the other person is making a big deal, and that's going to be like scary for the kids. And like dad's so bad that
Yeah.
we have to meet with the police just to make sure that he's not bad.
Yeah.
Uh,
I never thought of that. That's a good point too.
but you know what? Just take it on the chin and be the best you can be and use it as an opportunity. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're still seeing your kids, you're still seeing your kids. You're looking at two guys that don't see their kids. So if that was the deal that I had to make, I would do it every single time. There's some times where you just have to make some concessions and compromises, and that's an easy one, because it's also in your favor. I mean, I remember there was one time where my ex, we got into an argument about something. I was calm, cool, level-headed, and it just escalated. I don't even remember what it was about, but I knew, okay, this is the time for me to leave, because I didn't have a place at the time, and I was seeing my kids at her place, and she'd go somewhere, come back. That's when it happened. And I started to leave. I was going for my truck, walking in the driveway, and here she is, like grabbing my arm, yanking me. Um, I remember going back to uh, the guy's house that I was staying with and showing him my arm. I mean, by the time I got home, it was still like 15, 20 minutes later. And I was like, dude, look. I mean, my one arm was like covered in scratches and it was like red, and, nothing became of that, as well as all of the other times that I had been, punched in the arm or whatever else. But if that happened in a parking lot with the cops and the cops saw I did nothing, absolutely nothing, no physical contact, no yelling, screaming, and a person is doing that to me, okay, well, hey, now it worked in your favor. So don't if you were propositioned with that, I would say just take it on the chin, and who knows, maybe it'll work in your favor. Try to view everything as an opportunity that can help you in the end. And it's easy to get lost in the she's doing this because she's trying to make my kids like think I'm a danger and all of this, and maybe so, but it also could be an opportunity for you.
Yeah.
And like had that happened and a cop saw it, then I would say, hey, can you write a report? Can I get that in a report? Can I take it to court? It might not have helped me, but it certainly could help a lot of dads that I've talked to over the years.
Yeah. Well, and I look back for me, I think it would help me. I can't tell you how many problems I had in my driveway at our residence and our business with exchanges, having to call her showing up demanding the kids when she shouldn't have them, and having to call deputies to actually have her removed from the property, and problems at work where she'd show up at work and causing conflict and trying to get me fired, and so it's going to depend on what kind of relationship you have with your ex, what's going to work at that time.
That's crazy. For me, it was a roller coaster, just like my marriage was. The their relationship afterwards was a roller coaster, and it was hard to know what kind of day we were going to have. Um, I had a question. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So at my work, I would say about a dozen people that I work with, all men, young men that are in their early 20s to early 30s, predominantly in their 20s. And my work is a more blue collar, hands-on mechanical kind of gig. And so, there's a lot of just shop talk, I guess. I wouldn't say it's like all like really bad and inappropriate, but guys are hanging around talking, as they
Mhm.
do, and I overhear it. and I'm actually in a position just above them, so they work for me, but I see it as we all work together. But nonetheless, I'm kind of just over on the side, and I'm just on my computer doing whatever, and I hear them talking and talking about their exploits, what they're looking to do, and I'm talking to this girl and blah blah blah. And it's so easy for me, having been 6 years without seeing my kids. I just think, don't do it. Don't get married. Don't cohabitate. Don't don't do it. You thinking about kids? Idiot. Worst mistake you could ever make. I don't think my kids are a mistake, but I do feel like I have failed my kids. Like they exist now, and I can't be there for them. And there's a lot of hurt and guilt that goes along with that. And so it's easy to say, just don't do it. It's not worth the pain. Um, but if I went around the corner and told them that, first of all, they wouldn't listen. Second of all, I don't I don't fully believe that that's true. Um, Now the divorce rates and all of that jazz are at least 40%. And I think that number's probably higher. Not divorce, but just you got a lot of people that stay in a relationship that aren't in the relationship. They know that they're going to get taken to the cleaners. So they're checked out in their relationship. But that's my preface to this question that I give to you, and maybe I'll have my own answer as well. But you got a guy, let's say he's 24, and he's talking to you about, yeah, I really would like to settle down. I got this girlfriend and we're talking about getting married, and she wants kids, you know, and you're there, your mind is with all the thoughts. Like what what would you say to him, um instead of all the things that I just said, like, don't do it, like, because it can be rewarding, right? You and I are both remarried, I should say.
Yeah.
So we're not, anti-women. Obviously, uh, we moved on in some way. But yeah, what would your advice be if unprompted, you just heard that guy say all these things? What would you say to him?
Well, I don't know, while you're going through all that, I was thinking of two different ways to go with it.
There's a lot of
Um,
ways to go
you
with it.
know, I'm a little older than you are, and I've been married 3 times, divorced twice. First one was just a quickie. She just didn't know what she wanted. There was no issues and no kids. But and you know some of this, but I've had 3 children. The first one died at a year of age, and gosh, I think he'd be about 40 years old right now. And that pain has never gone away. And my other two, I haven't seen in 21 years, and they're like 35 and 37. And quite frankly, I view them as deceased as well. There's, and I know with you, there's so much pain involved. It it changes the color of everything you believe. But and I love them all. It's hard to, I'm not sure how I even feel about my latter two. I deeply miss my first one. I still go to his grave twice a year now. But if I had to do it all over again, I don't think I would have got married and had kids. And I have lifelong friends that have never been married, some not involved with women much at all. But um, I don't know. I'd have to sit down with that guy and have a really long heart to heart with them. And the prenups and all that stuff, it doesn't work. Those get thrown out of court all the time. So you can do things legally that can try and protect you. And I would just forget all that. It's noise. Um, but I think society years ago kind of pushed marriage on us. It was the thing to do. It was the thing to have kids. And I came from a real old fashioned family, and that was instilled in me at a young age, and a very strong goal of mine from a very young age. And then that, if anything, that's why things hurt even worse when it all fell apart. Um, but I think to do it all over again, I look at some of my friends that are a couple years older than I that never got married and they're doing just fine. Money in the bank. They own their own home. They did all the things that they would have done if they had gotten married and had kids, and they're doing just great. Um, would that leave a hole in your life? Possibly. Um, but there's so many risks in our society now for men. The family court system, the laws have not changed hardly at all in the last 35 to 50 years. Men are still the ones that typically, I underline that for any ladies that might be watching this, because it happens to the women too. But typically, you're not going to get custody. Maybe 20% of the time, men get custody. The odds of your kids being alienated from you is extremely high. Uh, it's not easy in our society anymore to raise a family. It seems like there's political powers, for lack of a better word, that want to destroy the American family. So you got everything just going against you, to be married to begin with, but to be a parent. And parenting is not easy. The stresses on kids nowadays are totally different than when I was raised and when you grew up and so on. So I would sit down and have a real heart to heart and let them know the experiences I went through, and a lot of the dads that I've um, worked with is the wrong word, but have been affiliated with over the years, and tell them they really need to think long and hard about it. But then I think they're probably thinking, well, it won't happen to me. It's kind of like a crime victim, it won't happen to me until it does. And
Or
I've just,
or they say to you, well, you remarried.
yeah, but I was 40, 42 when I did it, and things are going fine, but even then, I'm not sure I would have done that either. I've changed a lot as a man, and an older man too. But to be young and starting over and thinking about having a family, boy, I'll tell you, you gotta look long and hard, because it's gonna tear you. If things fall apart, it's gonna tear you apart emotionally. You'll never be the same. There's gonna be holes in your heart that will never be replaced. Uh, they can devastate you financially. I mean, you and I both have all the horror stories, but I had one friend I went to college with. He became a police officer in a small town. He got married, had a little boy, and this guy, he was the kindest man you would want to know. And they got divorced. He lost custody of his child. He got to the point he didn't see him. He was financially destitute, and you could see emotionally the guy was never the same. And he actually was so financially destroyed. He lived in a camper, the type that goes on top of a pickup, with an old pickup truck, and he lived behind the police station. That's where he lived. And I lost touch with him. And the last time I saw him was in a Dunkin' Donuts, and he must have been in his mid 40s, and he didn't even recognize me. And he was an alcoholic, and I think he was homeless. Um, and that's just one. And I mean, I can go story after story, but I don't know. Don't think it won't happen to you. And yeah, you're going to miss out on a lot of things, and you may have been that percent that live live happily ever after. And I know a few of those couples that have, but I don't know. The risks are great.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, the it's always the, well, it won't happen to me. And that reminds me of the whole, like, well, you just picked wrong. And
Yeah.
we should have that conversation another day. Um, but I was reminded as you were saying that about your friend who lived in a camper. I think, yeah, so there's a mutual person we know. that lives back closer to you, so I'm sure you know who I'm
Mhm.
talking about.
Yeah.
And boy, the courts have wrung him dry. And you know, I think about all the money that we have to spend just just to try to see our kids. And it's none of it is about money, right? Like when I was fighting to see my kids more, my ex said that I just didn't want to pay the child support and alimony, and I said keep the money. I don't care. I just want things to be better for the kids. I just want more stability. Um, but once you start going down that path, and especially if you get the wrong kind of judge, they don't care where you get the money from. They'll throw the book at you, they'll do whatever it takes. And I've worked with a few guys over the years that judges have told them after the father said, listen, I don't have that. I don't have that money. You got you got parents, don't you? You got siblings, don't you? The judge told them that they could get the money from their family.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just reminded when you were telling the story about your friend in the camper, like they will wring you dry in family court, and they'll keep going. They'll keep going until you got nothing left. And if you're and boy, I feel there's no other way to say this, but I feel bad about saying it. And if you're that guy, reach out to the page and talk to us. But they'll take you for everything you have. And if you're a sucker enough, everything all of your family has. And they won't stop. So I if I was confronted by that person, um, same as you, Craig, I think I probably wouldn't be remarried because what happened to me afterwards. Uh, I'm grateful. I love my wife, and you know, I think I I think I did pick the right one. A little late in the game, but
Yeah.
I had I experienced what I have experienced now, I wouldn't. There's no way. Um, and not just financially, but emotionally, they'll drain you, and I wouldn't have that to give to that person.
Mhm.
The person that I started the relationship with, that I am married to, I wouldn't have any. I would not have had anything to give to her at that point in time had things happened
Yeah.
later. Um, yeah, man, I'm really struck by that image. You know, just kind of seeing the camper behind a
Yeah.
building. You know,
And still remember seeing his old truck and camper, and it was a long time ago, but I think they were taking like 2/3 of his salary. He had like $300 to live off of, and that's it. That's it. And I mean, he didn't have a place to even pay to park the camper. He had to park on the city lot. And
yeah, I've seen those. I've seen those like screen grabs or pictures of people's paychecks in all the fathers groups I'm in, and just I'm astonished. And
well, and I I managed a company for a while, and I had 100 employees under me, and most of them were men, and it wasn't a high-paying job. But I would see, they'd be with us for 3 or 4 months and doing a good job, and we get them trained, and then all of a sudden, there's the papers served by the state child support to doctor garnish their paycheck, and we'd have to give them a copy of it, and unfortunately, they a couple of weeks later they quit, move on. And is my belief, and it might be just my generation, that uh, if you get a child support order against you, pay it in full, pay it on time. You don't want to get in arrears for yourself. And if you disagree with the amount and the order, then fight it and um, do the recalculations when you can. But in their cases, they would just that, and that's all they did. They were just job jumpers, just trying to stay away from the government coming after them. And I see their side too. Some of the amounts were so high. It's like, how can these guys live? And so I see, the obligation part of it, but I also see the effect on the dads. And it's not that they're not trying to get out of it. It's that they can't afford to live and survive.
Well, I'm going to try to end with a somewhat constructive note. It might be long-winded, so that's okay. I'm not saying we'll end in 60 seconds, but maybe I'll have one thing, and if you can think of one thing um, constructive long-windedly is fine too. Um, so we had somebody post on our page about a week ago, and they had said something to the effect of, there's a certain point where, I'm paraphrasing, there's a certain point where they're just better off. The kids are better off if you walk away. And um, boy, this isn't going to sound very positive, but this is for whoever that made it this far in the video. This is maybe a battle cry for you. Um, that was the choice that I made, um, to stop fighting. I believe that had I stayed in the fight, I would have ended up in jail or probably living in a camper, um, something. I had an OFP, order for protection, filed against me, and a restraining order filed against my wife, and it all seemed it all seemed unreal. Like you could just go downtown and just say these things, and now you can't see your kids because somebody said some words, whether they're true or not, who knows. Um, and what a wake up call for me that was. And some of the allegations were pretty severe, and some of them, though dismissed in civil court, were still used against me in family court. Don't know how that happened. Um, that's that, like, that the character assassination part.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I saw that comment come across, and I thought, boy, easy for you to say, right? This person still sees their kids off and on. And if you're thinking, if you're thinking that they're better off, I'm not so sure. And I'm not so sure you're better off. I know I've worked with dads that have made that decision, or that the decision was made for them. And I can definitely say that most all of us are not better off. And I guarantee your kids aren't better off. Um, so if you're having those thoughts, shoot us a message, talk to one of us, because there's a couple of us that don't see our kids that have made that decision. And you should know, what you're saying, like what that means, what that looks like in a year, in 5 years, in 20 years. You should know what that looks like. Um, it was hard for me when I saw that to not take it personal. I was offended, to be honest with you. I just was like, how dare you? You have no idea. You have no idea. I think about my kids every day. It, you
No.
know, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about them. And the worst part is I can't talk about it. Like I can't go to work and talk about it. Nobody knows what I'm going through. if I say something, they'll have no way to relate to me. Then they won't be able to say anything. Then it gets awkward. Then they're quiet. And if I keep talking about it, maybe they don't want to spend time with me. Maybe they don't want to be around me. Then I'm more alone. So what do? I shut up. But now it's to me. Now it's in here. I got nowhere to talk about it except for here. That's why we're here. But you're it's not it to me, it's not worth it. I don't know in hindsight if I would have made the same decision, but I can tell you I'm not happy with my decision every single day of my life. And I don't think that that's a decision that you should take lightly or should throw around lightly. And after giving it a day and I commented back to that person, I realized that person wasn't just saying that. I thought that they were just like somebody that was like supporting moms or dads that want to keep their kids away. They just want all the control. Um, I realized in their response that they're in the middle of some of the worst parts that I was going through, and they're being confronted with that right now. And I remember thinking all of those things, and I'm really glad that I didn't respond out of anger because it's like that was me. That was me 6 or 7 years ago. That was me. And this is an opportunity right now to tell you, who was the me 7 years ago, don't do it. Don't do it. Um, Keep fighting and utilize all these resources. You got two random guys talking to you that don't know you, but they're here. They're here for you. They'll talk to you. Middle of the night, you shoot us a message on our page. We'll talk to you. Um, there are other groups that are fighting to change legislation. There are so many groups and pages that are there for you, even if you just need to talk. Um, don't do it. Talk to somebody. Talk to somebody that's been through it. It's not worth it. You can do it. I could have done it. I should have been stronger. I'm stronger today, a little too late, but I could have done it. And knowing that now, I'm saying you can do it. Today, you can do it. Talk to us. That's my it doesn't sound happy. It doesn't
Yeah.
sound happy at all, but um it's not futile, I guess is my ending thought. None of this is futile. Stay in the game, stay in the fight, and talk to somebody. Talk to us.
Well, if I knew back then what I know today, I would have done things a lot different too. Just in the legal aspect of my case and fighting to try and save my kids' lives. But they got to be 13 and 15 years of age, fully alienated. They tell the social worker never want to see dad again, and you're told there's no court, there's no judge that's going to force your kids to see you. Um, I view it as I didn't walk away from my kids; they walked away from me, and they did. Um, they were coerced and brainwashed, and were victims of parental alienation and abuse from their mother. But what could I have done about it at that time? Yeah, I suppose legally I could have tried to fight things, and I just don't think I don't think it would have went anywhere. I would have had to intervene 2 or 3 years, 4 years earlier if I knew what I know now. Bring in the right kind of experts, uh, the right kind of attorneys to get on the team, and the right social workers, the right experts in the field. But it didn't happen. So I don't know. In some ways, I did walk away from my kids. Because I gave up, and I did. I gave up. I saw no hope legally to go anywhere forward, and the door's always been open, and I just don't see any reunification for me. I don't see it happening. For long-term alienated, it's about 10% that will ever reunite, and I don't think I'm going to fall in category. You know, I operate a page here in Oregon just for alienated fathers, and um, I often see the comment, "Well, I'm gonna just give up. I can't emotionally do this anymore." And there was one father on the page that got really rude to a dad that was at his emotional wits ends and said he was just going to give up. And this one dad was extremely rude to him. It was actually the only person I had to ever boot off our page. That, and I explained to the guy before I told me you can't be in this group anymore, that you're not in that dad's position. You don't know how badly alienated he is and how emotionally upset and distraught he is. And for you to tell him don't give up, keep fighting, and all this, it's easy for you to say that, but you're not in his shoes. And all I told him, I used my own situation. I said, basically what you told this man is the same thing you should criticize me of, that I gave up. And yeah, I gave up. I saw no path forward to make effective change, and I can't change other people, you know. And this alienation, all this divorce, all this division is so deep rooted in the psychology of 5 or 6 different people all involved, um, with a system that isn't always fair to fathers. That, you know, I can't criticize a dad that's going to give up, but I'll help him fight and I'll help him emotionally any way I can. But there's I guess to sum this up, there's no easy answer to this whole thing, but to reach out. And like you said, we're here to help. There's other people on this page that'll help, and there's a lot of other resources out there to help too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we're, if anything, we're testaments that, I mean, you can still survive if you did make that choice. You know, if you are carrying that weight, that guilt that we carry, you can survive. And
Well, and you said it too, and I'm just like you. There's a rare day that I don't think of my kids. A rare day. They if they ever saw this video, they probably would not believe that, but it's true. It's there's part of you that's missing, and it will always be there.
yeah, you know, it's a sad thought is that to even think that they wouldn't think that, but it's true. You can't change it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we I'm sure the both of us know a few other dads that are in our shoes, and there's a couple that come to my mind that have dedicated themselves to advocacy or outreach, whatever you want to call it. And for me personally, it's kind of my way of reinvesting that time. You know,
Mhm.
I um I think I think it's the least I can do. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I feel like such a failure that like I'll never make up for it in my life, but I'm gonna try to repay that balance. And so that's what I'm doing here and now. That's what I'm doing whenever I spend time talking to other dads or post on the page or talking to people in comments. That's what I'm doing. And I don't want to say it makes me feel good. It certainly doesn't make me feel good. In fact, many times I have to confront some of the things that I've been hiding from, or just coping with in certain ways.
Mhm.
But it is a meaningful way for me to feel like I'm repaying some sort of ambiguous debt. I don't even I'll have to think about what it is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, if you're out there, if you're watching this video, if you made it this far, there's a place for you. There's a place for you in doing this. And I can't say it's easy. I can't say um, you'll love it all the time. And I can't say you'll always feel fulfilled. Um, but if you believe, think, or feel that you need to um, sort of invest in your kids in some other way, like what I believe we're doing here today, get with us. It doesn't have to be with Fathers Anonymous. We have so many contacts with other organizations. There's even some people in this whole movement that I've lost a little love with, that they're still doing something in the right direction, and I would suggest you to them, whatever it takes for us to fulfill our role, however we can. We will point you to it. So yeah, I guess that's all I have.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I think that's well said, and I think I'm in the same boat. I don't get comfort doing this, but it gives me purpose. And if I can help a few dads find a path in life to where they feel like they have meaning and they're successful, and uh, that gave me purpose. You know?
um, well, this is going to be weird. I just was kind of compelled to say this, and I don't know, it's probably never going to happen. If my ex, for whatever reason, sees this video, you're creeping on the page, there's not a day I don't think about him. We can figure it out. We can make it right. Um, you know how to find me, I'm sure. You've you and or other people have done it in the past, so I'm here. The door is always open. So, uh, anyhow, I guess that's a good place to stop. We'll have another meet up next month. We'll pick a date as we normally do. The date kind of rotates between the days of the week. Today was kind of a different kind of day. We normally don't broadcast support groups, and the structure is a little different when we have our support groups. It's a little bit more constructive, and I don't know. I'm pleased with it. Uh, can always be improved, but um, I guess the point is that this isn't always broadcast. So whenever we have people that come to the page that aren't volunteers like the both of us are, it's private, it's safe, and we have some pretty, I don't know, explicit rules to kind of safeguard people's privacy. As always, anything you put online, it's out there forever. So this is out there forever. We are entrusting all of you with that. However, these groups are private. We're not posting them. We're not sharing them. We're not putting them on lives. None of that. And you don't have to say your name. You don't have to put your phone number, email. It can be as private as you want it to be. So if you're interested in these support groups, shoot us a message here on the page or at info@fathersanon.org, and we'll get you set up with the next one. Craig, do you have anything else to say?
The only thing I'll add is the support groups that I've been in on. I think they're very mature, professional discussions with different viewpoints. There's different age groups. Dads going through very different things, similar things, but that the information presented and that's what it is. It's information that might help guide you in a certain direction or just give you some emotional support. So I look forward to being on more of those and seeing more people involved. And as DW said, they're private. It's all a closed support group. It's not taped and won't be seen by anyone.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. There's been a couple times where there's been some differing views, and it's been a little frustrating. Not that I've been like outright angry, but it's interesting to hear some very different perspectives, because it's like sometimes it's like, never really thought of it that way, and I've never been in that position, and it's not really applicable to me, but in this space, it changes the way that I've viewed other fathers going through stuff, and maybe it gives me a little bit more understanding. Um, yeah, thanks for that. And also, we have a website, fathersanon.org. You can go to that, and there's a submission box as well. If you really want to be anonymous, you can submit a form there and contact us that way. It still goes to that info@fathersanon.org email address. But it's just another way that you can reach out to us if you don't feel comfortable messaging us here on the page or directly through an email. Um, so yeah, those are some ways to contact us. If you are interested in anything we're doing, shoot us a message as well. We'd love to get you connected with some people that just want to help kids, help dads, help families. Uh, so yeah, you've got our info. You're seeing this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll
Yeah.
see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Take care, Craig.